Howdy everybody and welcome to the second Micah Miles Podcast. I'm happy to have you all on board. I have a great guest joining me on this podcast. The guest I have on board today is super helpful, knowledgeable, and influential. During this podcast, we went over many questions about Southwest Virtual Airlines and flight simulation. I hope y'all enjoy.
Micah, how's it going? So my name is Braden. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Southwest Virtual Airlines. In my other time where I'm not spending my time doing the hobby of Southwest Virtual and flying flight sim, what pays the bills, if you will, I'm an instructor for flying operations out at Nellis Air Force Base with the United States Air Force's Weapons School.
Awesome. Real cool. We're going to jump straight into the first topic. The first topic is going to be your journey on becoming the Vice President of Operations for Southwest Virtual Airlines. The first question will be a great question. When did you first join Southwest Virtual Airlines?
That is a great question. So I joined Southwest Virtual back in July of 2020. I had to look that up because it feels like it's been a lot longer, but it actually hasn't. It's only been 4 years. But yeah, summer of 2020.
Super happy that we're in good hands, especially because you've been here for 4 years. So you know what you're doing around the virtual, so that's always nice. How did you learn about Southwest Virtual Airlines?
So I actually just typed it into Google. I knew that virtual airlines existed because I used to fly for some when I was younger, first getting into flight sim, back in middle school and time frame.
Sure.
But as I got older and I kind of got back into it, I wanted to see if there was one that simulated the airline that I flew a lot more and that I enjoyed flying with as an adult, if you will. So I looked up Southwest Virtual Airlines, and it was the first one to pop up.
Awesome. Yeah, because it's like cool, you're going through virtuals, and I'm sure, like you explained, going and flying for Southwest Airlines was definitely a huge influence, because if you're just going to go search up Southwest Virtual Airlines, there has to be a good reason behind it. And honestly, if I would search up a virtual airlines, Southwest Virtual Airlines would be my first option as well, because that's just what I fly the most, and I'm glad you can say the same. Did you know anybody within Southwest Virtual Airlines before joining, or were you just jumping straight into it?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I joined not knowing anybody in the VA, so I joined with no friendships, no nothing, no attachments in any way, shape, or form to the virtual airline. I just wanted to join to fly the big blue jets in the sky, and ended up building a bunch of relationships within the community that I still have to this day. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Big blue bird in the sky. That's a good one. First, perfect. Honestly, it's pretty quick, but we definitely nailed some pretty good questions there, and you had some awesome responses. Topic number 2. Progression within Southwest Virtual Airlines. So like you just stated, you started not knowing anybody, and now you're the Vice President of Operations. So now we're going to kind of go over how was your journey to becoming a Southwest Virtual Airlines Vice President of Operations, and we're going to talk about maybe some of the friendships and some of the people that you met along the way, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the stats. So we're going to jump into question number 1. How many flights have you completed for Southwest Virtual Airlines?
I had to look this one up today. As of today, I've completed a total of 785 flights, which is totaled to 1,310 hours.
Wow!
And I have visited 113 of our 121 destinations.
That's impressive, because in the past 4 months, I've completed 70 flights. In 4 years, oh my gosh, Braden, that's unbelievable. What motivated you to becoming such an essential person within Southwest Virtual Airlines?
So I never really thought that I would ever be in the position that I am today. I originally thought, after kind of to help the community as a whole, when I first saw the need to, join something as a more of a leadership position or more as a position to kind of help give back.
Right.
At the time, there were no crew base manager positions or nothing else, and there was a training department kind of at the time, but it wasn't really doing anything. So, with the experience that I had in running training programs for the Air Force and managing people and whatnot, I wanted to get involved and help people learn how to fly, right, and get those
Yeah.
skills to be able to use those in the VA, to then turn that into operating the aircraft as if they were actually operating it for the real world and the way that the real world operator does, right? So I wanted to create that lifestyle, that program, and the way to kind of get to that point. So I created that proposition and I sent it up to the executive team at the time. And then they turned around and was able to give me permissions to kind of take that training department and rejuvenate it. And that's when I became the director of training. And since then, there's been multiple other director of trainings who have been taking it on from there and helping get the VA to the state that it's still in today. But that's
Yep.
kind of how I started my journey into getting into this, overall operations, position.
Yeah, sweet. And so, how was like the application process? Pretty quick, or was there a delay in the team? Because I'm sure they had to go over and be like, "Yo, who is this guy? Like, should we let this guy take the position?" So, how was it? How was the application process?
Yeah, I mean, back then there wasn't a lot of stuff that was kind of official except for the crew base manager. That was very strict, very rigid requirements. But there were no instructors. There was someone who was the director of training at the time, but they had not been super active. And I had reached out to them first initially and was like, "Hey, what is it that we can do? I want to help." And
Gotcha.
eventually, it was just kind of they didn't have the time to handle with it anymore. And with that communication being given to the executive team and me wanting to be a part of it and kind of help, all of those things I believe factored into the overall unofficial application, if you will, just by me submitting an email to the executives of the VA asking that, or offering my assistance to help.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about training department, and it's really cool to hear that you didn't just get straight into becoming this vice president of operations. You actually had to work your way through the training department to get to the position that you're in now. So we can go over some stuff that you learned through your journey within SVA. And so with that in mind, what have you earned from Southwest Virtual Airlines, such as vatsim P ratings? Have you taken some of the courses? What are some things that you've learned? And it might just not be vatsim P ratings. It might be like logical stuff that you use in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, of course. So I'll start with the easy part of that, right, which is VATSIM. As the director of training, I worked with VATSIM very closely to develop our pilot training program with them to become an ATO, or authorized training organization. With that, it spent a lot of time getting validated and accredited by them to be able to teach those lessons, which required me to also go through those trainings in order to get that accreditation. So I went all the way from no hours, no nothing in the virtual realm, right? So
Yeah.
real world experience, but nothing virtually, right? So I
Yeah.
went through and did my private pilot P1 all the way through P4 with the VA and with our instructors that we ended up getting in order
Dang.
to enable that ATO. So I went all the way up through and did my P4 and then got my flight examiner rating through VATSIM as well, and still hold that to this day.
Yeah, that's super. That was actually something that I never knew. I didn't know you're the guy behind all this. Like, the only reason why we have P ratings right now and such a close connection with vatsim itself is because of you. That's awesome. I actually didn't know that. I thought it was someone well before, like when Southwest Virtual Airlines first started. And so, yes, that's really cool that you got your P1, P2, P3, P4 ratings. That's really nice. I'm looking forward to getting my P1 rating this summer, actually. So if you can, talk to me a little bit about the first step, like getting initially started with the Southwest Virtual Airlines training department. What should I do? What resources should I use? Give me some advice. Give me some tips.
Yeah, of course. The training department has kind of restructured here. We've gotten a lot bigger as a virtual airline over the last 2 years. I would say we've grown from probably around 700 active members to around 700 active members when I joined 4 years ago, to now here we are almost 1,700 plus active members, right? So
Yep.
because of that big jump in people in the VA, and the amount of people wanting to do training, we had to kind of restructure, because the training department I created for 700 people is not the same training department today, and it
Yeah,
can't suffice and meet that same requirement.
of
So,
course. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of changes and stuff that we've had to make, and we're still kind of going through those, and we're going through a lot of those growing pains right now. But essentially, what you can expect is that we're going to have open enrollments, right, with the training department, to where you will be able to go to our website, the training website. You'll be able to go there and see a calendar of events when we're offering different training sessions, or different enrollments for those trainings, right? So, for example, this summer we might open up another private pilot entrance, right? We'll say, hey, open enrollment starts on this day. Anyone in the VA can come in and enroll to be a student within our training program. We'll accept up to X number of students, right? Based off of the number of instructors that we have. And then once all those slots get filled up, then we stop the enrollment, and then a couple of weeks later, the actual first course, or that course, will start. And you go through academics, you get self-paced learnings, and then you'll start doing the academics. You'll take your vatsim written exam. After you do that, then you go into the flying training, where you'll do 3 flights with instructors, a practice, or an introductory, a practice, and then a demonstration flight. And then we send you off to vatsim to get your check ride done with a vatsim examiner. And then
Gotcha.
after that, you would get your P1.
Sweet. And do you know what aircraft they use? Because I know you talked about you have to take 3 little test rides with an instructor. What aircraft would it be done with?
Yeah, so vatsim has a variety of different aircraft that you can choose. It just has to be what's considered a non-complex aircraft, a single-engine non-complex aircraft,
Gotcha.
which in vatsim terms means like the gear is not retractable,
Mm-hmm.
and the propeller has, like, it's not a fixed governed propeller,
Okay.
and some other things along those lines. It's just to be single engine kind of construct for the private pilot. All of that information is in the training. We kind of talk about what aircraft. Most people use the 172. I know some people use some diamonds and some other stuff like that as well. But
Yeah,
whatever the
172
sim
is
really
what's
has to offer, yeah, whatever the sim really has to offer is kind of the limitations of what we have right now.
Gotcha. And can you use third-party aircraft, or I'm talking more Microsoft Flight Simulator related? Can you use like third-party Cessna aircraft from like Coronado or something like that, or do you have to use the aircraft that come with the sim?
Absolutely, you can use whatever aircraft that you want, that is available in whatever flight sim that you have, right? So we offer the training to anybody in any simulator and any training that they want to accomplish, right? The difference is that, like, in flight sim, there are limited aircraft, but in xplane there might be others, and
Yeah.
G3D there might be others as well, right? So we offer all the different trainings that we have can be done in any of the sims, as long as the aircraft meet the requirements, in this example for that sim specifically. So as long as it meets their entry and approval requirements to conduct it, then we'll accept it within the VA as well.
Yeah, I know you talked about the 3 different sims, and that's another lovely feature that I honestly personally love. If I want to go over to xplane, cool, I still got Southwest Virtual Airlines right there for me. It's not just Microsoft Flight Sim only, so that's really cool. And can this be found on SVA Life, the training department, right? It's on SVA Life.
Yep. Some of the training is available on SVA Life. We usually are holding most of our trainings for our pilots until they are at least a second officer within the VA, right? We want them to get out of that trainee status,
Yeah.
get them some experience. But there are exceptions to those policies. We just, reach out to the training department and ask them. But a lot of the information is on SVA Life as far as the content. But there's also a lot of information on the training website itself, which is just swavirtual.training.
Gotcha. So there you go. And then we'll link that in the description if people want to get fired up. But of course, like you stated, they have to be a second officer. They got to get some flight sim. They got to be familiar. And that's also a great thing. People can't just join Southwest Virtual Airlines and just use all the resources up. Like, they got to be invested into the VA, and that's another really quality thing. And just shows how Southwest Virtual Airlines is on such a strong foundation. We're gonna jump into the next questions. We had some pretty good follow-ups right there. Great questions and awesome answers by Braden. We're gonna come into topic number 3. This is flight simulation. So, what was your first flight simulation? I think this is a banger because you have been involved with flight simulation for quite a while now, right? So, talking about your first flight simulator is something that probably most people out there are like, oh yeah, I started the same flight simulator. So, talk to me about your first ever flight simulator.
Yeah, so my first ever experience with the flight simulator, personally, was with my great grandpa. He had FS 2000 that he flew on his old computer with just a little joystick. That's all he had. So I would go over there as a little kid and would play with him on that a lot. But I never had my first flight simulator personally until I got FSX. That was my first actual flight simulator that I had installed on my computer. And I had the Logitech Satec yoke and
Oh,
throttle
yes,
set with
sir.
that, which that one I still have it in my house. I don't use it anymore. I've upgraded since then, but I still have that same throttle and yoke that I had when I was 12 years old. You know, flying flight sims on my computer at home.
Yes,
But
sir.
I'll say
Got
what
that
got me
timer?
back into yeah, with the little timer on it, you
Yep.
bet. What got me back into flight sim though was actually my dad took me to the F-16 flight simulator on the Air Force base that he worked at.
Oh,
So I actually got to go sit in their flight sim, and everyone was like, "How do you know how to do this and all this other stuff? Like, you know how to take off? You know what flaps are? Like, what the heck?
yeah.
Like you know what a gear hand like what's going on?" So it was just kind of cool to talk with all those people, as a young, 11, 12-year-old. And after that, I asked for, flight sim for Christmas, and lo and behold, I got FSX for Christmas that year
There you
with a
go.
yoke and throttle.
So, ever since, you've been pretty committed to flight sim, or did you take a break?
Um, After I would say probably in high school, things changed. I had other priorities,
Yeah, of
schooling,
course.
and I did ROTC and I did a whole bunch of other stuff. So I was pretty focused on that in high school, but and then in college as well. Just I right after high school went into the military, and had enlisted and had them pay for my schooling, and then from there on went and started doing my flying gig with the Air Force after that. So it was probably once I got after my couple of duty stations into the Air Force and being around everything and flying with them again that I finally figured out, like, hey, I can do this at home too if I want with some other stuff. I don't have to
For sure.
rely on it just at work. So I ended up
Of course.
downloading Xplane 11 back in 2020, and that's what I started flying with. And I flew Xplane 11 and SVA there shortly after, and here we are today.
There you go. Yeah, dude. Talking about the Logitech yoke, I had that thing rocking X-Plane 11 too. I think it was 2021. I thought the Laminar Research 737 was the best aircraft ever, and I was flying that thing from Reno to LAX almost every weekend, and I was like having a blast. Took a little break just because of, once again, priorities, and then here we are, Microsoft Flight Sim with SVA, and rocking out with my captain promotion this weekend, so I'm having a lot of fun within the virtual. And let's go to what is the best part about flight simulation. I think flight simulation is awesome. There's a lot of good things you can touch on, but in your opinion, what's the best part of flight simulation?
Yeah, so flight simulation and what is best about it is just a loaded question in general because there's so many different possible answers, right? I'll start with the communities that are in the or that are in the flight sim realm, right? Just flight simulation communities in general, Southwest Virtual being one of them, right? Like those people or the communities and stuff that bring people together that create, an everlasting connection within the people that have, or that are members of that community, and of people who really just take this hobby to that next level and actually enjoy doing this kind of stuff. I would say that's like the first best part about flight sim is that we have such a, like, I don't even know how to word it in the right way. We just have such a unique culture and a unique
Yes,
ability to have a community that's just open to everybody being involved. You know what I mean? It takes away from anything that's going on in the world and other stuff. You can just hop onto your flight sim,
so
hop
true.
into the Discord or whatever, and there'll be people there that are, gonna, for the most part, be there to help you and,
Have some
be
fun.
supportive of the entire way and have fun with it. You know what I mean? Go out and fly
Yes,
with some
exactly.
friends, etc. So I definitely say that the community aspect is the first part, but the other piece that I would say is I get to do stuff that I don't get to do on a daily basis. I get to fly airplanes that I may never get to fly in my life. I may
Yeah,
never get to fly an Airbus or a Boeing plane. or civilian versions of those, right? I may never get to do that, in my life. I hope to, right? Hope to one day
Yep.
once I get done with the Air Force and my
Positive
current flying
mindset.
commitment. But for the time being, like I don't get to go fly 737s.
Yeah.
I don't get to go fly it for Southwest.
Imagine
As much
that.
as I wish I could, right? I can't, right? I'm not
Yeah.
able to do so right now. So because of that, like that's the other part. I get to do stuff that I don't get to do on a daily basis, and it kind of removes me from my reality of the world and how I see everything through that lens of the military aviation, etc. I get to kind of go experience the civilian side as my hobby, which I love.
Yeah. For sure. And it's really cool because it's not a game. It's a simulator. It's a flight simulator. And with the addition of Rachel, everything is so realistic. It's so immersive. So like you were talking about, yeah, you don't get to fly no Airbus or 737 every single day, but actually getting immersed and acting and I guess feeling like you're actually inside the flight deck and you're actually taking control of that aircraft. I think that's awesome. We're gonna jump into question number 3 of topic 3. How has flight simulation impacted you?
Well, that's a big one. I would say that flight sim has made an everlasting impact on me due to the friendship that I've made within our community, right? I've networked with so many other enthusiasts at events like Flight Sim Expo, right? Where I've built those connections, I've built those network people that I never thought I would ever talk to or have conversations with, right?
Yep.
And then even within Southwest Virtual, meeting people, all the staff members and all the members that I've helped and that we've trained throughout the years, and seeing them progress through the VA and having those communications with them on a sometimes daily basis is a lot of what makes the flight sim community and the flight sim in the general have an impact on me, right? But I would say with that, I believe, right, in giving people I want people to have that same feeling that I had when I joined and what I'm doing, right? So having the ability to go and talk with other people in the community and all those networking events and things that we've had with the other enthusiasts in our communities, right? I've trying to give back with those connections that I've made to help make the experiences for anyone who wants to be a part of it better, right? And I think that's kind of what makes, again, we've been talking about it a lot, but flight simulation communities, I think, is something that is sometimes overlooked, right? But is such a huge part of the overall experience that people get. And, the VA being one of those is a great part in a way that something that I can help control and, make sure that people are enjoying that experience and anyone can come and be a part of it.
Yeah, I think that's honestly what it's all about, giving back. I know you briefly mentioned that, but I think that's like super major. That has a hefty load to it. Giving back to the people who helped you, and I guess giving back to the community and those around you. Because yeah, like you were saying, you were once there, you jumped in not knowing anybody, and look where you are now. So you can imagine someone who probably just joined the Southwest Virtual Airlines Discord server, probably doesn't know anything, nobody in the Discord server, Southwest Virtual Airlines in general, yet you're going to have amazing people in company chat, and you're going to have amazing people such as yourself being there to back them up, help them out, and have them learn a thing or two about Southwest Virtual Airlines, company spirit, and actually start helping them fly aircraft. I think that's killer. Topic 4, which is going to be the last topic. This one is going to be all about Southwest Virtual Airlines. So we're going to go over when it first started, some of the best things about Southwest Virtual Airlines, such as company spirit, like we just mentioned, and some differences within Southwest Virtual Airlines. So first question, this one is, I think, something that a lot of people might have. Actually, this question is going to be something that's super special because a lot of people have this question. So, when was Southwest Virtual Airlines first started?
Yeah, so I wasn't there. I was still pretty young in my days when Southwest Virtual started, but it was back in 2008 is when Southwest Virtual started by a group of 4 individuals, some of which who are still active members, such as our current CEO, which is Ryan, right? He's been here since they started back in 2008.
Go
So
Ryan!
I guess that puts us on what our on our 16th year. Yeah, go Ryan. Staying strong for 16 years, keeping this thing afloat. him and the rest of the team who have transitioned throughout the years. But yeah, I would say it's, even though I've only been a part of the last 4 years, 16 years of being here is kind of great, and it sets us true to heart. No pun intended there, as far as like
Yeah.
what we're here for as an organization.
That's a big flex. What is the best feature involving Southwest Virtual Airlines? So we talked about the best feature was in flight sim. What's the best feature involving Southwest Virtual Airlines?
So I would personally say that the best feature that we offer as a virtual airline is flexibility, and that is paramount for anyone who has this as a hobby, right? The ability for our pilots to be able to simulate the operations of the real world airline to whatever extent that they want to is something that we really believe in strongly, right? We want to give people the option to fly how they want, when they want, and what they want to fly within certain parameters, right? By giving them all the resources. So things like you said, like we have the procedures, that emulate the real airlines procedures. We have SVA Life. We have all these documents and SOPs and all these different things, reference manuals, etc., that we've created, in order to help people experience this better. And if you want to use it, you are more than happy to. The resources are there for you, but we don't force it on anybody, right?
Yes,
We
exactly.
have pretty lax standards as far as that's concerned. We
For
allow
sure.
people to come in and fly how they want and when they want. If they want to use the SOP and the policies that we have outlined, then they're more than happy to do so. But if they just want to do the one flight every 60 days to stay active,
Yep.
because that's just something that they want to do, they like being a part of the community, but they don't necessarily care about flying the 737 in the exact way that Southwest does, and that's fine too, right?
Yep.
That's the biggest thing in our community, and I think that's what sets us kind of as our best feature, is that we just offer that flexibility for anyone who wants to be a part of our organization.
Yeah, and I think that actually covers the next question too. Like, that sets you guys different than any other VA out there. It's the flexibility. It's, hey, I'm not gonna get on you because you're not turning on your fuel pumps the correct way, or you're not getting you're not going A's off, B's on, or anything like that. You're not following the SOP. It's not about that. It's about really, like we stated, company spirit. It's about the community.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And yeah, if you guys want to be realistic, or any of these pilots want to be realistic, for sure, you are going to be there for them. Everybody else in the training department is going to be there for them to help them out, assist them, give them a little bump, and just say, hey, here's a quick adjustment that I suggest if you want to be a little bit more realistic. Or, hey, you can follow this and you can read this document right here. Here's our SOP, and here's how we fly our aircraft the SVA way. It's the little things like that sets you guys apart. It's really, really cool. Because just, I would say, like 3 months ago, I was not anything special. I probably didn't follow the SOP whatsoever. But now I've been really trying to just take it one step in front of the other, really trying to follow the procedures the correct way, really trying to learn. I'm out embracing everything and everybody, and I think I have become a better pilot, and I've definitely learned a thing or two when flying the 737.
Yeah, I would say 100%. That is definitely something that makes our VA have one of the best features, I think, is just our flexibility. But that, what you were talking about with what sets us apart, there's so many different things that set us apart from other virtual airlines. I've kind of broken it down into 4 different points, really.
Let's hear it.
Right, we already talked about our best feature is our flexibility, right? Which we've kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. But some of the other stuff that we really offer that I think kind of sets us off from everybody else is that we actually value what the real world airlines ideals and what their vision is for their operations, right? It enables our community to embody that, right? Our community was made for our people, right?
For the people.
Then that community is, that community is meant to be realistic, right? We offer to provide realistic, schedules, everything else. We, reliable servers, websites, and resources like Love Cars and SVA Life, etc., right? But we're also friendly, right? That's the other thing. And then the biggest is, of course, loving, right? We have
Friendliest
to.
in the skies.
And all of those, exactly, all of those all of those like key features there, those values are all set forth with what the actual airline's values are as well. And we want to make sure that we embody that whenever we're out there simulating their operations, is that we actually are embodying their values as well. I would say that's one of the main points. The others, all right, are we offer realistic flight schedules, right? These flight schedules that we put out there, they update every single day. And then the gates, they update every hour. So we offer the most up-to-date, realistic schedules that you can possibly get anywhere in the flight sim community. And that's something that we're pretty proud of, again, as it enables that realism factor. If you wanted to fly that flight that's leaving out of Dallas Love Field tonight at, 9 p.m. or whatever, that flight, you can go fly that if you want to.
Yep.
At 9 p.m. on the same scheduled, on the same route with that same tail number, because we have all that we pull from, flight radar and, other resources like FlightAware, etc. We've just combined a whole bunch of that data to put it all into the resource that you are able to get as a consumer or as a member of our organization.
Yep.
But then the one thing that you've mentioned that we haven't talked about yet, which I think is probably the one thing that sets us apart more than anybody else. Anything that I've said above, all of that is very important. But here it is, love cars. Love cars is what separates us from the other virtual airlines in the community, because it was built by our organization, aka Ryan, for our people, right, for our members, and it's all proprietary, right? It's all our own information, all our own data, but it's meant to, right? It's our own proprietary software that you can use to plan, track, monitor, and submit your flight reports with, right? It also has the things that you were talking about, like interactive co-pilot, or nickname Rachel, right? She does a pretty good job most of the time. And she's an amazing first officer that we are glad to have with her. Glad to have her with us in the cockpit whenever we're flying for Southwest Virtual. But her and the performance calculations and everything else that, Love Cars 5, that we released last April. So it's just been over a year since Love Cars 5 has been released, and it's grown so much since then. There was no interactive co-pilot. There was minimal performance calculations. So much has changed in the last year.
Yeah, and last April.
And there's so much more, dude, that is coming down the pipeline here that we hope to kind of include in the future as well. But we'll save that for another time.
A year? It's like that thing's been around for 10 years. It's super well organized and everything's super official. And another thing, it just all goes back to flexibility. You're talking about the real world schedule, and you can depart at 9 o'clock at a Dallas Love Field with the tail number. But it's going to be like, hey, this flight already left, right? Because it goes off of the sim time that you have. Then, boom, simply go into Love Cars. You can turn the real world scheduling option off, and you can fly it at daytime if you don't like flying in the night. So, boom, once again, it just goes back to flexibility, which is just such a plus when it comes to Southwest Virtual Airlines. And then Love Cars. What an impactful name that is. That's really, really nice. And then Ryan is a genius. The fact that he's done that, that's really cool. Very, very interesting. And yeah, that's really what sets Love Cars, or I guess that's what sets Southwest Virtual Airlines apart from any other VA. Plus, we talked about the best feature, but something we haven't gone over the entire podcast is the fact that we have PMDG and SimBrief integration. So talk to me a little bit about that, because I know at FlightSim Expo you did a nice little video with Mr. Nick, and he went over PMDG and SimBrief integration. So if you don't mind, talk to me a little bit more about PMDG and SimBrief integration and how you guys came up with this integration.
Yeah, so it's very similar. A lot of what we're using for this, right? SimBrief has their own API, right, that they use, which allows us to communicate with our software that we have, which is Love Cars. So you put in the information. It basically is just like a substitute for the fields. We have our own profiles that we have in there that have all the different aircraft weights and, tail numbers and all this other stuff, right? So when you put in the tail number of a 700, our software recognizes that it's the 700 and puts that into SimBrief to generate the overall dispatch release, random generation of passengers, but it pulls the real world routes, it pulls all the other stuff from our databases and everything that we have, right? So once we get all that information, it goes into the Love Cars 5, which is where you can dispatch from. and then from there it puts it into SimBrief and spits back out a dispatch release. So again, that's just all using the SimBrief API, utilizing all that information that they have to kind of help us, simulate our operations as realistically as we can. And that's super easy to be integrated, just like how it's integrated inherently with the PMDG and multiple other aircraft. It's super easy. Just got to put in that username into our software, and it immediately will connect the two. So that's kind of how the SimBrief stuff works. With PMDG, it's similar, just like all the other, softwares and stuff that are out there, such as, the FS2 crew construct, right, where you can just, connect your, software to be able to go and accomplish the same thing that our interactive copilot can do, just with the different softwares, right? It's the same constructs. All it takes is is the interaction between the aircraft and our software, which is inherently implied with the flight sim, which is the way that it connects through FSUIPC and a whole bunch of other different back-end softwares that run inherently with flight sim that enable the connections between PMDG and our software. So all of those things put together, when you put it all into one software where it does your dispatch release, it does your performance calculations, and you can go in there and get your weather, and you can do all the same kind of stuff. It really kind of helps bring the realism all into kind of one application, instead of having to go through all these different resources to try to open up different windows and browsers and whatnot. Makes it a little bit easier.
Super helpful. We talked a little bit about realism and how Rachel, our virtual first officer, helps out a lot with like management and workload and like stress and all that stuff when it comes to flight, because it can get pretty busy pretty quickly, right? It can be a little much at times, so it's always good to have Rachel get your flaps up and start your APU once you're clear of the bars after you landed. Like just little things like that. It's super. Now, what is the hardest approach you've ever flown for Southwest Virtual Airlines? Not just flight sim, but for Southwest Virtual Airlines. What's the hardest approach in your opinion that you can find? Now it might be like the what is it? Non-precision approach into Santa Barbara. That's a good one. But what would be the hardest approach you've ever flown for Southwest Virtual Airlines, or in your opinion, what's the hardest approach out there when booking a flight for Southwest Virtual Airlines?
Well, so there's always some challenging airports, right? Landing at Midway is always a challenge. Doesn't matter the time of year, time of day, nothing. It can always be a challenge. Those runways are pretty short.
Yep.
Midway is just overall a challenging airport. So is John Wayne, and so is Reno. Those are some pretty challenging airports that we have in our system. A lot due to the short runways and to the mountainous terrain that surrounds some of these airports, such as Reno.
Yeah.
So I'd say some of those are the airports that are the hardest, or not necessarily the hardest, but those are ones that are typically ones that we have to kind of look out for, right? But I would say one of the hardest approaches that I've ever flown was flying into San Jose, Costa Rica. I don't know why. I mean, that's a beautiful approach. If you ever get a chance to do it, they have one runway that is east-west running. If they're landing eastbound, you have to fly over the runway, flip a U-turn, and turn around in like a reverse teardrop style through the mountains, exactly, super low altitude.
Yep.
That one is super fun, but also super difficult because it goes in and out of the mountains. There's a lot of wind, a lot of upward drafts and downward drafts from mountains, especially if there's any obscurations as well. It makes it very challenging. So I would say, given the conditions that I had when I was landing at that airport, that was definitely one of the hardest approaches and landings that I've ever done. Some of the most fun, though, like you mentioned, Santa Barbara, that one is one of the most fun approaches I think I've ever done. It is being able to just hand fly that thing in, following the same non-precision approaching, just following that path all the way in for the VOR into Santa Barbara on what is that, runway 25? That
25.
That runway, it's challenging. It'll put your skills to the test with the short runway and making sure. But man, if you can do it like on a nice sunset, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous, so much fun. And then I'd say the river visual, obviously it's a classic. That one in a DCA. River visual is always super fun to fly. If we ever get the chance to do so, it's definitely something that you should try out. But all of them come with their own challenges, especially with restricted airspace and stuff right there in DC. It can become a challenge, but again, I wouldn't say those are the hardest one for whatever reason. That San Jose, Costa Rica one, man, that approach kicked me in the butt. I think that was probably one of my hardest landing rates that I've had as well, because
Oh, great.
I went around twice. Like, it just was unstable. The winds were crazy. I got to see that approach multiple times, and I think that's the reason why it was so hard, is because I had to do it multiple times.
So yeah, well, I probably got the heart beating, got the adrenaline going. Yeah, I don't like wind, but I'll probably give it a shot. I don't know. Gotta make sure I get some practice in with those crosswinds before I head down south. But no, I'm glad you have some flights and some, I guess, landings or approaches that you can suggest to others to give a shot, because we talked about some of the funnest, some of the best approaches that you can possibly fly for Southwest Virtual Airlines. So I have actually never flown to Reno for Southwest Virtual Airlines, so I'm definitely going to give that one a shot relatively soon, because like I stated before, I would fly there a ton in xplane. When I lived in California, my family would fly there every summer, so that was always awesome. So I definitely have to give Reno a shot. I didn't really remember it being so tricky, but I guess maybe if you're coming in landing south on the 17s, you might have to make a little left-hand U-turn real quick and get it on the ground relatively shortly, right? Because it's not that long of a runway, is it?
It's a decent runway. It's not super long, but it's not super short, but it's not super long. It's kind of right there in the middle.
Right there in the middle, gotcha.
But I mean, it's also just the elevation in the area. There's a lot of
That's
mountains.
True. Very fair.
It's kind of like the Palm Springs approach, where you kind of got to fly over some tall mountains on final. And depending on which way you're coming in, right? If you're coming in, from the south or from the north, either way. But the departure is also what's really challenging. If you were to lose an engine on your departure out of Reno, like that becomes pretty sporty of a departure plan there at that point, and that engine failure procedure kind of becomes super tricky, and it's why we kind of have that as an option for people if they want to practice that stuff. It's pretty interesting, but kind of like you said, I haven't reached all the destinations in our timetable yet. Again, I'm 113 out of 121 that we have, and I would say it has been the most fun flying into some of these airports that I have just never been to real world, right? Just the other day I did a Cat 3 approach into Philadelphia. Flying the HUD all the way down from the final approach fix all the way down to landing with the HUD, hand flying and 15 knot plus crosswinds, and like I've never been to this airport before. I've never seen it. I've never, I've never experienced it, so I don't know what I'm expecting to see. I don't know what the terrain is around the area. This is my first time flying this ILS, but man, that was like in the last 6 months, that was probably the most fun flying that I've had, was literally this past weekend when I got to fly in that Cat 3 all the way down to, RA minimums into Philadelphia there. That was
it's great to hear.
That was pretty fun. So again, it's just, and I wouldn't have done that if I haven't been trying to get all my destinations knocked off, right? So there might be some small little airports out in the middle of nowhere, like Wichita or something like that, right? Some smaller airports, Jackson, things like those. They may not have the best sceneries, they may not have the best, everything else, but being able to just check it off as like something to do and go out there and fly just to random places and try to build your schedule, because now I'm just going to go, and once I get all my destinations checked off, like I'm just going to select a tail number and I'm just going to fly whatever that tail's flying for the day. Right. And I'm just going to go there, and wherever it goes I go, kind of deal. You know what I mean? That's my schedule. And I think that's kind of fun, because then
that's so cool.
It kind of leaves that excitement factor, like I don't know where I'm going today, let's find out. Boop, yeah. I'm gonna go here, sweet. And then now you have that flight scheduled for this, for the upcoming week or weekend or whatever you end up planning. So yeah, I think that's something that's fun, and I think everyone should strive for, and we're working to get some awards out there for people who accomplish every single destination. And then there's some people, this is not me, but there are some people in the VA who are trying to fly every single leg that's possible out of every
Oh
single destination.
my.
Because you'll notice on our website, it offers that. So it tells you if you've flown that leg from, let's say if you flew the leg from Dallas to, Vegas, it'll say you've flown that leg before, so it checks it off the list. But if you haven't flown the, Dallas to Lubbock leg, it'll let you know that you haven't done that. And there's people out there who are probably complete, if not almost complete, with having every single leg in the system flown.
That's
which to me,
unreal.
that is more impressive than anything else, but that's always
Yes.
something to strive for as well.
Exactly, there's always something to strive for. Palm Springs is a little funky. I don't know what it is. It's a little funky for me. I can never really get that approach down. But let's see. It's also really, really interesting to manage these hard approaches, but then also have to recenter and be like, okay, I gotta stay realistic, and like also having Rachel beside you, if you do have Rachel going for you, it helps a lot, right? She does a lot for you, and it really helps, takes the load off your shoulders. But it's definitely challenging flying all of these really hard approaches, but then also recentering and knowing that you have Rachel to help you out, and then you're flying for Southwest Virtual Airlines, so you got to do things the SVA way. So it's just a good mix of everything, just results in a perfect scenario, which is always exactly what you need. It takes the adrenaline and takes the realism, you get a 50-50 mix, and that's where it's at. And
I would agree 100%.
We talked a little bit about some things to strive for, and that briefly kind of went over this next question, but I really want to hit it on the head because this is going to be our last question of the podcast, but a great question. What are your current goals, or what are the current goals of Southwest Virtual Airlines? I know you talked about awards. Is there a new update coming out with Love Cars in the near future? Maybe you can't spoil that. I don't know. Just tell me, what are the current goals, or what are your current goals of Southwest Virtual Airlines? Give me two answers there.
Yeah, so I'll say answer number one, for like what's coming up in the future for the VA, just kind of give a little peek behind the curtain, if you will. We're getting a new website sometime this summer, or sometime by the end of this year, I should say. We're working on it this summer. But sometime by the end of the year, we're looking to have the majority of the website built, so that way we can kind of release it, hopefully by the beginning of next year is the goal, sometime around then. New website, new features on the website, which will inherently come with a new Love Cars update as well in that time frame to kind of help add some of these new features that we're looking to add. So be on the lookout for that new website. That website's going to have a lot of new features, of scheduled bookings, probably more than one day. So you can't see the current schedule. Be able to see 2 to 3 days in advance and be able to book those schedules out as well.
Yes.
Be able to
clutch.
do co-pilot scheduling. So if you want to do shared cockpit with somebody, we'll have like a bidding area where you can do that, hopefully. Tankering, those are all things that we're looking to add into Love Cars 5 and the website. So be on the lookout for that, and I'll be here in the next 6 to 12 months. We'll plan on getting that released. So that's something to look forward to, right?
Yeah, that's going to be fire.
Something that we're going to do.
Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 supposedly is going to have built-in shared cockpit. So now that we're talking about shared cockpit with Southwest Virtual Airlines, and you're able to book your controls or shared cockpit with Southwest Virtual Airlines, that's going to be great and super fun to work with Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 and being able to book a shared cockpit flight. And then talk to me about
for sure
some of your goals when it comes to Southwest Virtual Airlines.
Yeah, so I would say my goals and the VA's goals are very similar, right? I personally want to get all my destinations knocked out. That's like my personal goal for the year is to get that done. But the overall goal for the VA, right, let's kind of recap and kind of put a pretty little red and blue and yellow bow tie on everything.
Let's do it.
Right, our vision for the VA, right, is to become the world's most loved, most flown, and most enjoyable virtual airline, right? And with our current member stats and everything else that we have, we're trying to get there, right?
Yep.
Our goals for this year for the entire VA, right, are to exceed and maintain 2,000 active members in the VA. We're 300 members short right now, but we think that we can get there by the end of the year, that we can get to 2,000 members.
Indeed we
and
can.
That we can, and then hopefully we can maintain that throughout the rest of the year. So that's the goal. The goal for us is to get over 2,000 members. We also want to get over 1 million flight hours this year. Right now, we're kind of we're teetering the line on whether we're going to be able to make it. We're hoping these summer months kind of pick up the pace as far as pilots flying.
I'm
Pretty
sure it
sure,
will.
like if we do the statistics, we could figure out if each pilot this summer were to fly, 2 legs a week or something, or 2 flights a week or something along those lines, then we would definitely beat our 1 million total flight hours. Other stuff, again, like we talked about, we want to, maintain like so many submitted flights each month, around 7,500 flights per each calendar month of the year. We want to kind of keep that on that trend. The same with the flight hours, because if we can keep around 13,000 hours flown for the entire VA each month, which is typically where we're at, we want to kind of keep that for the rest of the year as well, along with the stuff like the new website, marketing efforts, and attending Expo, etc. Those are the stuff that we kind of are looking forward to finishing out the year with.
Let's go, SVN at the Expo. You're gonna be there, right?
I sure will.
Let's do it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. First Expo for me too, so I'm pretty hyped for that. What can I expect? Give me some advice from last year's Expo.
Man, there's going to be so much that you're going to want to see and that you're going to want to do. Just take your time, figure out the places that you really want to see, the things that you really want to go dedicate your time to go spend time with and talk to, right? And there's going to be a whole bunch of different sims that are going to be there, a whole bunch of, hardware that you might want to go try out. It's the ultimate hands-on experience as they kind of talk about a lot. So I'll say Flight Sim Expo is definitely something that if anyone ever has the opportunity to go do, definitely go experience, because there's going to be the ultimate ability to go see if you want to try this new throttle, you want to go see what this new software is about, what it offers, things along those lines. That's kind of where I think Flight Sim Expo really kind of benefits. But there's going to be so much there that I definitely think that everyone needs to kind of take a look at the map, figure out where they want to go, and make sure they plan their trip around the little convention accordingly. But hey, don't forget booth 334. That's our booth. 334 Southwest Virtual.
Yep,
I'm writing
that down. 334. Let's go. And you're able to purchase stuff there, right? Like you were talking about. I want to go check out a new throttle quadrant that Thrustmaster just happens to be showcasing. I'm able to purchase it there, right?
So sometimes last year you were able to buy it there, but then they would ship it to you, and then that's kind of how they did. But there were some other like giveaways. A lot of them will do giveaways of some of the stuff that they have in stock there. Some of the stuff you can buy. Other stuff, it's kind of like if you fill out this questionnaire, or you put it, buy a ticket or do whatever for this raffle, then they'll go in and pick a raffle. I think someone from our VA last year that went with us, he won a Thrustmaster Bravo throttle quadrant and whatnot. So he got the whole package there, and it was pretty exciting to hear that someone that we met in the VA that was a member there last time was able to kind of get something and bring it home with them. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, there's raffles, there's a whole bunch of other stuff from all these organizations. It's definitely something fun to look forward to. We won't be doing any raffles, but we'll have snacks, we'll have drinks at our booth, we'll have a little lounging area where you can sit next to and talk and watch some cool videos about Southwest and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we look forward to having a lot of people at our booth and be able to sit there and see what's going on. We're going to be right next to the vatsim online display area, so there'll be a bunch of controllers and everybody controlling live right there in that right around where we're going to be at as well. So it'll be pretty cool to kind of see the virtual experience all together. Virtual pilots, flying with virtual air traffic controllers all in the same area. So it'll be kind of cool.
Right, and you're going to get a ton of looks at your booth if you're right next to the vatsim online experience. That's going to be good, real good.
Oh yeah, it'll be great.
Well, this has been a good one, that's for sure. Really, really fun. Thank you so much for coming out here. I know all of you guys are super busy, especially you, Matt, and everybody else in the virtual airlines. You guys have a lot to do. And I thank you for coming out here, talking with me, so that I can post this on my channel, and then that we can get people from all around the flight sim community to come in, watch this podcast, and be like, oh, I actually had this question. I want to get involved with Southwest Virtual Airlines. Boom, Braden got you covered, and I'm sure you guys got some questions, you can leave them down in the comments. Maybe Braden can go take a look at them after the video's published. How about that? Sounds good?
Sounds good to me. I'll be checking these comments, see if anyone has any questions, and I'll be able to answer just as well as anyone else. So,
Here
we
we go.
have emails as well. Reach out to info@swavvirtual.com if you have questions. You can reach out to myself, go onto the website, just look at the team page, and just go ahead and send me an email, or anyone else on our staff or executive team. We'll be more than happy to kind of help facilitate any questions. Or reach out to Micah. We have a freshly minted captain here at Southwest
Yes,
Virtual.
sir.
He's
Let's
got
go.
all the information. He can
Everything.
help you out too. So.
Yep, exactly. And everything's going to be in the description. If you guys want to get started with Southwest Virtual Airlines, check it out down below. And I will catch you on the flip side, Mr. Braden. Have a good rest of your
Awesome.
evening.
Have fun.
Thank you so
Of course,
much.
you as well. Keep the blue side up and the brown side down.
Yes, sir. For sure. Safe flying to you. And I'll see you.
Of course, have a good one. Yep.
Thank you so much, too.
Nice landing.
Friends, that's going to do it for the second Micah Miles podcast. If you have any questions that we skipped over, the comment section is the place to go. As always, it's a pleasure reading all of the supportive comments. Before I go, I would like to thank my channel members. If you see your name on screen, I would like to personally thank you for your contributes and dedication to my channel. As always, friends, keep those wings level, remain airborne in the skies, and I hope to catch you all in the next live.